You are on the clock in your rookie draft, and the big three of Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams, and Marvin Harrison Jr. are already off the board. You are facing the decision of Malik Nabers versus Rome Odunze. Who was the right pick? Well, the Fantasy Football Universe is here to help. Hello, everyone, and welcome into the Fantasy Football Universe. We're slightly distracted here as we are in the middle of a rookie draft and sending each other trades in the middle of the fourth round because that's where all the good players are. I am Aaron St. Dennis. Find me on Twitter at FFMadScientist. Got a full house today. We've got Jeremy Schulman at FF_Rebel, Jesse Moeller at JMoeller05, and SC Romero at the PPR Show. Thank you guys for joining us. We are here today for another rookie face-off. This one is, I think we're about maybe pick 104, I would say. 105 is where you're likely to have to face this decision. We got Malik Nabers versus Rome Odunze. Before we get into them, though, check these articles out. I think this one drops tomorrow over at fantasyfootballuniverse.com. Today we had Caleb Williams versus Jaden Daniels. Thank you. I'm drawing a blank. And before that, we had Ben Snot, the Jugger Snot, against Jatavian Sanders, both of which who just went way too high in our rookie draft, and I will have no shares of them at that cost, but that's a story for another day. All right, guys, how's it going? Anybody got anything interesting here? Thoughts on this before we get into these two? This was probably one of the closer battles for me. I go into it knowing who I think is better, but that doesn't always happen.
Yeah.
No.
It's interesting depending on what you're looking for, right? Like you're looking for the guy that could potentially produce year one or the guy that has the ideal, like the best possible landing spot you can get. So it's a fun back and forth. And I mean, I think you know where I'll go with this, but yeah, it's a fun discussion.
Okay. Time out. Jeremy, are you actively negotiating a trade with him? Because he's online.
Except this fucker told me he's going to take Marshawn Lloyd, so it's over. Marshawn Lloyd at the 404.
Because he just messaged me back saying, no thanks, I'll pass. I didn't even send him a fucking offer, but so he's online. So maybe he meant to send it to you, but so he's online, but hasn't made the pick. So
yeah, I don't know why he's trying to trade back. If he likes Lloyd, just take the pick, dude. Like, what are you doing, right? It's what he's doing. I'm not a Lloyd guy, but in the early fourth round, like, that's a smash.
He's told you who he's going to pick. He's declined my offer that I didn't send. Maybe it was from yesterday, but and still hasn't made the pick. But anyways, I guess we should get into this. Well, SC stares blankly ahead on the league. He's not in one. It's like, I don't give a shit, guys. Shut up.
Hey, Lloyd in the fourth round is some value, man. But I don't think I have a share of Lloyd, but I traded him earlier. You know, it was a C2C league, so that's my only share. But I haven't been drafting him, man. The running backs in this class, I've been avoiding a lot of them. I've been going heavy wide receiver and then getting tight ends when they fall, and then some quarterbacks here and there. But the RBs, man, like I'm getting, Blake Watson is the guy I'm getting in the fourth, fifth round because no one knows about him because he went undrafted. So
I tried to trade up in the beginning of the third for back-to-back picks with Jeremy, and he said, nice offer, but I think I'll pass and take my two guys. I said, oh, a trade was completed. Was that you?
Yeah. I accepted Jesse's offer and just made him stronger next year. So
awesome.
Let's go.
He turns my trade
sucks
down
even more this year. Yes.
He turns my trade down, and I said, I was trying to trade up to get back-to-back tight ends in Sanat and Sanders at the beginning of the third. I forget, would you say look up or something? They went in the fucking second round, and I'm like, what are you kidding me?
Oh, I love it there. He was Sanat 211. He's been going 210 in most of my drafts. I mean, I'm happy enough with it. I've taken Roman Wilson over him. I've taken Marshawn Lloyd once over him. But yeah, I got a couple of shares of Ben Snot, but that's right where he's going. 210, 211 seems pretty standard at this point.
I'm gonna.
So I thought you were talking about you took Roman Wilson over Nabers or Odunze. I was about to get out.
You're fired from ever managing. Yeah.
That's a good segue. Let's get us back on track. Way to go!
We have an open spot in the FF universe now because of
All right, so let's get into it. As you said, what do we got? We've got Nabers went 106 to the G-Men. what did Odunze go? Pick 9. Never mind. Yep. It's in big, huge letters in front of me. Round 1, pick 9 behind the Twitter logo. So we've got elite draft capital for both of them. My player comps were lofty ones. I obviously don't expect them both to hit this. So we'll say mine, and then we'll see what you guys thought. I have Justin Jefferson for Odunze and Jamar Chase for Nabers. That might be some not helmet scouting necessarily, but helmet relation there. I don't know if that's a thing. Anyways, who do you guys see in these two players?
Yeah, the Jamar Chase one, they're like doppelgangers as far as size. He's not quite the pure athlete that he is, but he's very close. So if you're going to comp based on like skill set and speed and all of that, he fits that. Obviously, I mean, we're not expecting him to have a Jamar Chase career because that's just absurd to anybody to hit that, but he's that type of player. And then of course, we get to the other side, Odunze, everyone loves talking about Devontae Adams. So we're just setting out the peak comps for both of these guys just to get everyone excited. But yeah, I'm on board with both of them.
I forgot who was interviewing Jaden Daniels, but they interviewed him and asked him like, who do you compare, Malik Nabers to? And he actually said Jamar Chase. He's like, just the way he gets after it, goes for it. The guy that was interviewing him said he wants to see more of some versatility when it comes to Malik Nabers, lining up all around the field more so, not just on the outside, because that's something Jamar can do as well. Odunze Jefferson, when you talk about these top tier athletes, I think everyone wants to talk about, you're comparing them to Justin Jefferson and Chase because they've been studs, rookies, you jump on them. Odunze kind of feels more like a CeeDee Lamb. He definitely has the skill level to be an elite wide receiver, but it may take him that year, maybe 2 years to actually elevate into that top tier there. And especially in his landing spot in Chicago, he's playing behind DJ Moore and Keenan Allen. Granted, he may get some more time. The best thing about him is he's, growing with Caleb Williams there. So that's where he gets a slight edge for me. But I do like the comps there you have. I think they're both phenomenal athletes. When it comes to comparing them, just don't think of it like, oh, they're not producing year one, this isn't the comp. No, I mean, these guys can. Bad quarterback situation for Malik Nabers. Wide receiver room is full for Rome Odunze. So it may take a couple years, but both these guys are elite.
I wanted to start doing something next year before. I know you haven't done yours, Jesse, but when I do comps, I want to start doing, because the ones I have here, these are obvious ceiling comps. This is your fucking best case scenario. I'd like to start doing 3-level comps where it's best case scenario, most likely outcome, worst case scenario, to kind of to gauge, what the prospects are. Because everyone looks and says, oh, well, fuck, he's going to be Jamar Chase. That's awesome. That's not his most likely range of outcome. That's me saying best case scenario, he's Jamar Chase. Did you have someone there, Jesse, or you're typing away, I assume, in the draft chat?
Yeah. I think another level down for Malik Nabers is DJ Moore. If you don't want to go true ceiling comp, you push it down a little bit. DJ Moore is a very good NFL wide receiver. He's obviously not Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson. He kind of took a little while to get going, too, because of his quarterback situation was so awful in Carolina. So you could see something similar to this with Malik Nabers, where he's putting up 900 to 1,000 yards. Interestingly enough, the over-under per receiving props came out, and they had Malik Nabers at 875 yards, and they had Rome Odunze at 700 yards. So I know we like to talk about ceiling comps, but that kind of gives us a realistic range of outcomes for these guys in year one. So don't be surprised if it's like 60 catches, 875 yards, something like that. Like that could be in his range of outcomes instead of the 1,200 yards, 90 catches, stuff like that. So it's kind of like I like to kind of knock it down a little bit to get us a realistic range.
And I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I think Chase and Jefferson both hit about that in their rookie season, about 1,200 yards, right? Like
I have that later in the. That's one of the categories later down.
Yeah, and so that's the issue here is like if we're not really expecting, and I don't think we are now, right? We're talking about it. We're not expecting Nabers and Odunze to hit that year one. Are they really these elite level prospects that Jefferson and Chase are, or are they more mid to back end wide receiver ones over the course of their career? Now, I know some of these older guys are going to phase out and they're going to take over, but I just don't know, even though we're in a super strong wide receiver class, as we've been talking about here for a year or two, how strong are these top end guys? I guess we're going to have to wait and see.
I think Nabers could hit it year one, but we'll save that. That's we've got more down there. It's a landing spot draft capital. We'll get to that. Where the hell am I? Okay. Size comps. This one's normally pretty. Oh, so did we say, player comp. Sorry, it was player comp. We don't give a grade. This is our first graded category. Like I said, I have my running score total here. Odunze wins the first category. You guys can obviously vote to keep your own, have a different one, but Odunze 6'3", 212, Nabers 6 feet, 200 pounds. So this one I gave to Odunze, much bigger, bulkier in general. This one was pretty easy. Like I said, Odunze is the bigger receiver. He's more of a prototype. He has more like an alpha, whereas Nabers is kind of like your faster, deep threat here. Maybe even I know he's not a big slot receiver, but he projects as more of a big slot receiver. Anybody got any thoughts here? I know it's basically just numbers on this category, but anybody disagree that Rome is the size winner on this one?
I mean, if you're going for the prototypical size, yeah. I think with today's NFL, you can make the more case for Nabers fitting the more like new prototype of NFL wide receiver, because we're seeing a ton of guys coming closer to his size range. I think Odunze is more pushing towards the X kind of like outlier, because we don't see a lot of guys like that who profile at his size, his speed to play the X position. That's just not what we see nowadays who are as good as him. So I think you can make the case that the guys who play inside, outside, do a lot of everything like Nabers is going to do. I think he more fits what today's NFL is. So it's just like, it kind of depends what you're looking for.
I think we've also seen that, like with the Treylon Burks is the first one to come to mind. The guys who are the typical X prototype receivers, they're a lot more high risk, high reward. Like when they do hit, they're awesome. But they also have like the N'Keal Harry instant bust potential. So anybody else got any thoughts for size? SC?
The thing with Odunze though, you brought up Burks and Harry, is Odunze moves a lot better than they do. Yes. Odunze doesn't move like he's a 6'3", 200-pound guy. He moves like he's a 5'11", 187 guy. That's how fluid he is in his speed. So I think that's the difference between him and some of those other guys is he moves honestly better than Malik Nabers in just the routes. He's a lot more fluid in it. He's a lot more smooth in it. He's not necessarily crisp or anything like that. Like everything he does is so agile that's what puts him in that top spot to just be a solid X wide receiver. He's not your typical just big guy, go up and get it. No, he's separating from guys and he's making guys miss with his feet rather than using like strength or his body size to boost over the defenders.
Yeah, and like SC is hinting at here, like the size adjusted speed and the way that they both move. Sure, I agree with Rome, but only Malik Nabers runs a 4.35 40. Only Malik Nabers has elite 10 and 20 yard splits. Like we're splitting hairs here, but if we're splitting hairs, I'm giving the edge to Malik Nabers in terms of how he moves. So I don't really care what size my NFL wide receiver is. I know cornerbacks are getting bigger and faster for sure. But at the same time, we know that maybe not in New York, but we know that offensive coordinators are combating this by moving guys all around the field. And New York doesn't really have anybody else. So that size, I think, is going to work well for Nabers to move inside, move outside, and let Daboll do whatever he wants to do with them. Whereas Rome, not only his situation, but also his size could lock him in to a particular role, especially moving forward. So.
I'm not used to having all four of us in here. You guys want the screen like this or with the article on the board? Were you guys reading it off the board or?
I mean, if you're reading it, it's cool. That's
No, like I can still see it myself. There's not normally four of us in here. So we were kind of in teeny tiny boxes there. So
let's do it.
All right. More screen time. I hope you boys put your makeup on today. All right. Next, we got speed comparison here. Both of them, I think Nabers considerably faster. He was a 4.35 40, whereas Odunze ran a 4.45. I get it. 4.45 is not slow by any means, but this is, what do they say the difference is between quick and fast? Whereas like Odunze is pretty quick, but Nabers is fast. So this one was Nabers for me, ties it up 1-1. Like I said, 4.35 puts him among, had to be top 2 or 3 among the receivers in this class, right?
Yeah, he's like a top 38 all-time RAS score guy. Odunze is like a top 96 all-time RAS score guy. So both these guys are just premium size speed score specimens. Like it's just splitting hairs. Obviously, I think Nabers is a better athlete just a little bit. Like you watch the tape, he's just more explosive. Like it just comes through, flies off the tape. So I would give him the edge if we're going for pure athleticism.
And speed is great. I know everyone gets all hyphy around, the speed. They're like, oh, he ran, he blew it off 4.2, whatever it may be, 4.3. But I mean, if we're being real, that's without pads. That's without a lot of stuff on there, right? And you think about DeAndre Hopkins ran like a 4.5, and that was top 10 wide receiver for decade, so the speed's great and all that, and you gotta give the edge to Nabers because he is faster, but in the end it comes down to what you're doing in those routes, what you're doing once the ball's in your hand there too. But give it to Nabers on this one.
And I want to give it to Nabers as well. The only thing that I would knock him on is I don't think he ran, even in his pro day, he didn't run the shuttle or the 3-cone. So when it comes to acceleration and the quick cuts, I mean, we see it on the tape like we're talking about. We know he ran the faster 40, but like SC is mentioning, can he get in and out of his breaks faster? Unlikely, at least what we're seeing. Although Rome ran it 20 times and was kicked off the field because he kept knocking the cone over. So again, we're splitting hairs here, but it's Malik.
All right, next up, we're going on to route running. I had Rome Odunze as an excellent route runner in short area of the field. He's one of the best in the class for the intermediate and deep sections of the field. My grade on him overall was a 90th percentile. Nabers, on the other hand, is either the best or second best route runner in this class for me. He was pretty much phenomenal all the way around. It was him or Marvin Harrison Jr. My score for him was 97th percentile, 99th percentile in some areas. I thought he was almost flawless. Like, this isn't to say Odunze is a bad route runner. I just thought Nabers was better. I think they're both two of the better route runners I've seen. I think Nabers, he gives me that vibe that Olave had when he came out, where they just said route running savant. I got that vibe off of Nabers. I don't know, maybe I just like Nabers a little bit more, but what do you guys think here of their route running abilities?
Man, I saw more Odunze because he was Pac-12 than I saw Nabers, and Odunze smoked Kyrie in Oregon. Like, he put this guy on his back basically, just with his cuts and just making it so shifty to make this guy just lose him and grant that separation. So I'm not knocking Nabers on what it is, but what I saw in Odunze this past year, I'm gonna give it slightly to Odunze here.
Yeah, and we're splitting hairs again, but so close. I mean, again, it's different size. It's kind of a different role, right? We saw kind of and different quarterbacks as well, right? I don't even know really exactly how to differentiate here, other than Nabers was a bit better on the go balls. Jaden Daniels was finding him on the boundary more. Rome was able to work the middle of the field better, I thought. It's a tough. I'll push it here.
Yeah, I'll defer to the two guys that I trust the most with scouting for wide receivers, and that's Matt Waldman and Matt Harmon. And interestingly enough, they kind of split between the two of them. Matt Waldman absolutely loved Nabers. When he said he was like, the way he wins is more like proficient, and I was actually surprised because when I saw it at Odunze, I was like, this guy just does everything so well. He's a true technician. I think the difference is like the way they win is different. Odunze is a lot more fluid to me, and he's smooth. Where Nabers, I call him caffeine for your eyeballs, because you watch it, it's just like acceleration, and he consistently torches guys because they can't keep up with his speed. And then you add in his skill set, it works to his advantage. Where if you give him an inch, he's going to take a mile. Like, that's kind of how it works. Where Odunze more puts you to sleep and then just dominates you. So I think they win differently. I prefer Odunze. I think he's more polished than Nabers, but overall, like, we're splitting hairs here. That's just give either one of the guys.
I had Nabers, but like you said, we're splitting hairs. They were both two of the better route runners I've seen in a while. As far as hands goes, Odunze has excellent hands, sure-handed, reliable target, wins at different areas of the field, I find. So that's probably why I think he had the better hands in the short to intermediate area, whereas I think Nabers was a better deep threat. That's just me personally. I think they both had excellent hands at all levels of the fields here. I gave this one to Nabers slightly. It could have, difference in quarterback targets. Jaden Daniels was arguably better than whom I'm drawing a blank on. What's it, Penix Jr.? That's where he has.
Yep.
So for me, this one was Nabers. Again, it's splitting hairs. I think they were both elite pass catchers. I just slightly preferred Nabers. Anybody want to take it away?
I think, like we're talking about, it just depends what you're looking for in them to do. So I think when it came to the teams and who was drafting them, you kind of wanted to pair the skill sets with the quarterback. And like with Nabers, I think he makes it a lot easier because you can just trust his speed to just absolutely just demolish defenses and take the top off we talk about. Odunze, like, he consistently wins. So I think he gives Caleb Williams a lot of like what we call layup throws. Like, he'll win those in X, particularly when he's doing like the comeback, the drag, the dig and stuff like that. He's really good at those. So I think you're kind of picking and choosing, but yeah, it's just what you want for your offense and the skill set because they each do things differently.
This is the only time that I'll bring up the competition that they face, because I'm going with Nabers here just because I feel he was playing against more physical defensive backs than what Odunze was. So Nabers had to go and get it more aggressively, and that's where I'll give him the better hands there. Just slightly. I mean, you could go either way on them, but Odunze was grabbing it more with a feet of separation, where Nabers sometimes he had to actually snag over these guys to actually get it and bring it down and still get yards after the catch. So I'm gonna give it to Nabers.
Yeah, that's what I'll say too, is like the highlight reel for Nabers. I mean, you just see him absolutely mossing these guys. And Rome, because of his smoothness, has kind of less of that. But certainly no less, impressive, but maybe a little less spectacular. So for me, it's maybe Nabers by a hair here.
The best season of college production for both of them is pretty damn similar. For Odunze, it's 92 catches, 1,640 yards, 13 touchdowns. For Nabers, it's 89 for 15, 69, and 14 touchdowns. So Odunze had the higher reception and yardage total, and in the best season, Nabers beat him out by 1 touchdown. The college dominators are both pretty much elite for receivers. Odunze had a 26.4% college dominator. Nabers put up 33.7, which is insane. So I think the college production, you're both looking at elite producers. Nabers, it just goes to show you how dominant he was. Maybe that could be lack of overall options. I know we've seen McMillan and Polk both go in here. Nabers has some younger guys coming on now at LSU, but for the most part, he got all of it there. He was easily the alpha. You guys have anything interesting there, or thoughts on the college production and the dominator there, or even competition?
Yeah,
No,
no, go ahead.
No, you're good.
I was gonna say I think it's just less competition for him, right? He had one main target competition. Odunze really had 2, but we saw in the last year it was basically just Odunze was everything in that offense. It completely went through him. So Nabers just did it a little bit earlier. So like I'm gonna default to a guy that produced earlier and had his breakout a little bit earlier. That's the only difference though. Like Odunze did his thing. He absolutely dominated the last season. Nabers came out a little bit earlier and did it for 2 straight years. So like that's all we're talking about today.
I know it's more mouths to feed in the Washington offense, although who was the one who was out most of the year? McMillan or Polk? Okay, so essentially it was Odunze and Polk against Nabers and BTJ. I think Brian Thomas Jr. is better than either the 2 or the 3 in Washington. So I think this one, just for me, this shows how dominant Nabers was, and maybe just how keyed in he was with Daniels because he's been there. What's up, Jeremy?
Well, and the other thing to consider here too is LSU really didn't have a massive rushing threat, and certainly not a big threat out of the backfield, to compete with for touches. Dylan Johnson was great, and he was owning that. It allowed the offense to kind of open up a little bit more. So when those passing situations for Washington were wide open, there was more balance to that offense. I think LSU, you consider Jaden Daniels as the guy who's running around with the ball most of the time, and he always has the option to pass or throw. So, I think that kind of, in terms of college dominator, if he's running with the ball, if he's choosing to pass it sometimes instead of run it, you get more open looks for Nabers, and that percentage can go up a bit.
All right. We will close it out with landing spot and draft capital. I know Nabers was drafted 3 picks higher. I don't care. They're both top 10 receivers. I'm going to ignore that completely, not discount it. And then we've got Nabers to the Giants and Odunze to the Bears. Which landing spot do you prefer? Which one do you think? I guess which one? They both kind of seem to have the same long-term appeal. There's some older guys there in Chicago. So which one do you prefer?
Is this for 2024 season? My bad. Just for
in
this
general, either one. You can say both, whatever you thought.
Go ahead, Jesse. I'll let you go.
Yeah, I'll take the guy with Caleb Williams. Like I'm just gonna take that right now and lock it in. While my daughter's screaming in the background.
We're not used to having 4 of us. Do we have to put our hands up?
She agrees with you.
Yeah, the ceiling is there for Malik Nabers in year 1 just because he has no competition. But like we've seen this with Garrett Wilson, Drake London. And I'm gonna let you guys take it from here.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, vice versa. I mean, Nabers has that potential, right? I do hopefully Hyatt comes out of nowhere and kind of fits into what Brian Thomas Jr. was. And they was just that stretcher guy to get the field open and exceed it. It really comes down to that quarterback play. So yeah, if you want to tie Odunze to Caleb, I think that's better long term because I don't necessarily think Keenan has more than a year, maybe 2 with Chicago. So I'm going to have to take Odunze slightly. However, I do think they address the quarterback situation next year, whether that's maybe Justin Fields or Quinn Ewers or Carson Beck. Then I may be slightly considering, okay, I'll go with Nabers there. I love Nabers more, but based on the landing spot, I have the New York Giants is one of my bottom 5 teams next year. So,
yeah. And, to that point, the Giants likely address the quarterback situation next year. That means Malik Nabers is a year behind Rome, right? He's going to have to get used to a new quarterback. If the Giants tank the way we're expecting them to, it's possible he has to get used to a whole new coaching staff as well. That's just going to set him back. So the talent isn't the issue here. It's the situation, and Rome's in a much better spot. That whole staff, everything that they have in place on offense, they're set to be there for a long time today.
All righty, moment of truth. You're on the clock. Who is your pick, Nabers versus Odunze? We'll start with Jesse while your daughter's quiet.
Yeah, I still have Rome 1 spot above Nabers. It's 105, 106. They're back to back. I really don't care that much between them. Ideally, if I'm on the clock at 103, I just trade back and I go take who's ever cheaper. So I think the best way to go about doing this is to, if you prefer Nabers, trade back a few spots, get a second on top, and get Rome. Go that way. But if you really want to take Rome above him, like, you can do that. If I have to pick straight up, I'll take Rome with Caleb Williams long term and just roll with it. Like, Rome's my guy, so I'm just gonna take him now.
SC?
Man, I had the poster note that said Malik Nabers no matter what, but landing spots play a difference for me. I think I want to go Rome, man. And Jeremy kind of hit on the money where I think he plays a year back, and we may never see that. You get a lot of elite wide receivers go to just a bad situation, and because of that, we may never see Malik Nabers exceed into that top 10 potential, where I think if Odunze gets that opportunity to be at least a 2 for Caleb Williams, we can see a top 10 potential, where I think Nabers' ceiling is top 15, top 20. He's not necessarily against that top 10. So I go Odunze.
I'm going to throw this to Jeremy next, and I'm praying you answer the way I need you to, or this is going to end poorly for the show.
No, it's Nabers. Look, unfortunately, we saw Malik Nabers' first interview and just the disappointment on his face of like what he was dealing with in those rookie practices. Whether, I don't know who was out there throwing him the football. It certainly wasn't Daniel Jones, but whether it was Drew Lock or some practice squad guy or whoever, he just looked totally dejected. So you worry about his long-term future. In the short term, he's going to get all the targets he can handle. So I don't think anyone would be shocked at all if Malik Nabers outproduces Rome Odunze in year 1. I think people are pretty much expecting it, especially if Darren Waller retires. Like, there is literally no one else on this roster to throw to. So 150 target season incoming. This team's going to be behind often. And I think Rome probably has the longer, the longevity and the trajectory that you want to see. But Malik Nabers at least will be valuable in fantasy football for the next few years, and he's just going to be hyper targeted. So give me Malik.
This is why we don't have 4 people on the show, because I was hoping you would go Odunze because I go Nabers, and now we're tied, and we've accomplished nothing.
Shame.
Damn. Well, that was my pick. I was going Nabers, but I'm sitting here praying, please don't say Nabers. I think you're right, though. There's no target competition here. He could have 130, 140 targets as a rookie. Yeah. There's nothing here. I'm not a big fan of Daniel Jones, but is Daniel Jones better than a rookie quarterback? It's quite possible. I don't think long-term he is, but it's a rookie quarterback. Like, do we remember Hall of Famer Peyton Manning as a rookie? He wasn't so good. Andrew Luck wasn't good. Like, none of these guys are good. Even Trevor Lawrence was the last one we said, a generational quarterback. Well, he sucked as a rookie. So even the best ones kind of suck as a rookie. There's way more target competition. Give me Nabers, and we are deadlocked because these West Coast motherfuckers got to take the Washington Homer pick. And then us people over here, the voices of reason, went with Nabers.
Yeah. I think
140 targets means nothing if the quarterback can't get it on the money to him too. So he can get it and not necessarily catch anything. So we'll see.
The 12 points per game is going to hit like crack, let me tell you.
Yeah.
140 targets and maybe 3 touchdowns. Maybe.
Right. For sure.
140 targets, 35 catches.
Oh my gosh.
That's Daniel Jones accuracy there. So, all right, guys, go over to fantasyfootballuniverse.com. Check out this full article, or head over to our YouTube channel to check out the rest of the series. If I've tagged these videos correctly after uploading them, which I hope I've done, you will be able at the end, right on the screen here, be able to click on the rookie sneak peeks for both Nabers and Odunze. Check back tomorrow. The next two we are squaring off with, I believe, is Lad McConkey and Brian Thomas Jr. That one is probably a little bit more polarizing, so we'll see how that one goes. Thank you all for tuning in. Follow us everywhere, social media, YouTube, all that fun crap. Like, subscribe, rate, review. Send us what were we doing? Some roster reviews. We had some of those. Trade questions, all that fun stuff. Thank you all for tuning in. Take care and have a great night.